If you've been feeling burned out by small, handmade platforms that suddenly don't really feel all that small or handmade, cough cough, Etsy, you are not alone. But what's the alternative? Well, stick around because today I am breaking down and exploring some of the best Etsy alternatives out there to help you truly support small handmade businesses, or if you're a fellow small handmade business, to maybe set up a shop and grow your own. Hey everyone, Amber here from Sustainable Jungle, where we share sustainability tips, tricks, hacks, products, brands, and stories to better our planet. So first of all, wow. My last video on why Etsy no longer stands with small makers absolutely blew up, and I was definitely not expecting that, but thank you all so much for the support. It's clearly something that needed to get talked about, so I'm happy to have started that conversation. And if you haven't watched that video yet, please do. I'm going to link to it below, as that one is sort of the why to this video's where else. Because so many of you were in the comments asking, okay, but if not Etsy, then where should we shop to support genuine small creators? And it became abundantly clear to me that the desire to support small is very alive and real. The problem is that most of us just don't know how or where to do it anymore. Well, here's your answer, hopefully anyway. In this video, I'm diving into some potential Etsy alternatives for handmade goods. And I'm gonna talk about the good, the bad, and the AI-generated ugly about each one in hopes that both other makers and buyers alike can learn about some potential options if they, like myself, are tired of Etsy's policies and Temu-resale garbage. But before we jump in, you know the drill. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe to Sustainable Jungle down there and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future content about sustainable living and supporting sustainable makers. But first, there was another response that I got a lot on that last video, and that was people asking how they can ensure that they are actually supporting real makers and artisans. So before we talk about the actual alternative platforms, I just want to talk for a few minutes about some general tips that you can keep in mind no matter where you're shopping. First, and this is probably the single biggest thing you can do to support artists, is to not buy on these third-party platforms at all. In other words, buying directly from the maker, whether that be their website, their social channels, DMing them, whatever. This way, the seller doesn't have to pay all those exorbitant extra fees. Because even though Etsy is extreme on the fee end, any third-party platform is going to have some sort of fee structure. I mean, they have to function too, and I get that, sellers get that. But if you buy directly from the seller, then you pretty much get to bypass everything except for the transaction fee. And that's obviously something they're gonna have to pay, whether it's a credit card or a PayPal fee, but that would be it. So that really helps us out. So instead, I recommend thinking of platforms like Etsy and some of these ones we're gonna talk about today like a search engine or like Pinterest. And you can use it to discover artists and products that you like, but then actually go seek out other ways to buy them. Now, you can kind of do this by, once you find a shop that you like, scroll down all the way to the bottom to their business profile, and a lot of businesses like on Etsy are going to have a spot where they can link to their home website or their social channels. Now, I know that this is not going to work 100% of the time because some businesses sell exclusively on Etsy, or some of them simply don't have a website or bio in their shop description, so it can be really hard to find them on other platforms, but many of us do. And if you can't find easy links in their shop bio, try just Googling the name or even searching on social media. I would just like to point out that an Etsy shop does not always reflect the shop's exact real name, because fun fact, Etsy doesn't allow for any spaces in the name. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but it can make things really confusing. With my shop, it doesn't really change anything much because I literally just omitted the spaces, but I have seen some that basically had to redo their name, either to get around maybe another shop that had already taken that name, or for whatever reason. So just know that that is a possibility when you're searching this way. My next tip is that if you do buy from these platforms and you get a product that you love and are satisfied with, leave a good review, if merited. Now, obviously, if something was genuinely wrong or unsatisfactory about the item or your order, note that, account that in your review. But if there's nothing wrong, please leave a good review. Like, I appreciate your kind words so much, but unfortunately, Etsy and these platforms don't. The numerical stars that you assign are literally all that matters to the algorithm. So if you gave a purchase 4 out of 5 stars, that counts against my star seller status, which among other things requires the shop average reviews to be 4.8 out of 5 stars. So if you honestly can't provide any form of constructive feedback or something that was genuinely a negative element of your purchase or your buying experience, please don't punish people just because you feel like no one deserves 5 stars, which is apparently a real attitude that's out there. Number 3, just please understand that we are not Amazon. You're not buying from some big corporation, and therefore you're not going to be afforded the same conveniences as if you were. A big problem with Etsy is that they're trying to be like Amazon in terms of free shipping thresholds, speedy shipping, and they're being like Temu in terms of prices. And this isn't solely Etsy's fault. It's because they're trying to compete with consumer trends and offering what the majority of consumers do want, which is cheap convenience. But if buying small and handmade is one of your values, realize that you will not often get both or even one of these things. Like, if your order is delayed by a few days by the shipping carrier that I mailed it with, I can't afford to just send you a new one, no questions asked, like Amazon does. And I've read countless Etsy sellers on Threads, X, Reddit, all these different forums, where they're telling stories about this really big uptick in problematic customers that seem to be driven by this expectation. People that leave 1-star reviews, or even worse, demand refunds for products that were ordered on December 21st that did not arrive by Christmas. And I really wish I were kidding, but that's a real one that I read. And if you want to read a whole bunch of other horror stories exactly like this, the Etsy Sellers subreddit is a really good place to start. So please, just have a little bit of grace and realize that we are small businesses and we don't have the resources or the capital to meet the frankly unrealistic expectations that Amazon and kin have made us associate with online shopping. My next tip is to tip creators. Now, this doesn't always apply, and some platforms don't really allow a function like this, and that's fine. But some platforms like Ko-fi, which we're going to get into a little bit later, will allow you to leave tips for sellers. And I encourage you to use this feature if you can. And this isn't to say that you should always tip, because I get that it's not always feasible or even warranted. I mean, I wouldn't tip myself just for making one of my basic products. However, if a seller goes the extra mile for you, maybe it's to create something custom or to ship something out much faster than normal to accommodate your needs, consider rewarding them for that little bit of extra effort, because it really does encourage us to put in that extra work for customers. And again, we appreciate your business, period. Like, so much. Please know that. But things like that just go the little extra mile honestly make our day. Next tip is to engage with your favorite sellers' socials. Now, social media is, unfortunately, because I hate it, probably the future of small businesses, considering how platforms and Google search engines are really going. And it's really hard to grow on social media. I've never really been able to figure it out. You can follow all the tips that they want and it doesn't really do anything. And then randomly you'll just have one video that goes viral and it does something. But it's very random. But you can really vastly help your favorite small businesses expand their reach just by engaging with their posts and stories. It costs you absolutely nothing to hit the heart button below someone's Instagram post, and yet it helps expand our reach by saying to the social media algorithm gods, hey, someone likes this. This is content that someone else might want to see. Okay, so now that we've talked about some tips to exercise when shopping small online in general, let's get to the actual alternatives. And I just want to preface this with a disclaimer that I know that this is not all of them. I know that there are others out there lurking in the dark corners of the internet, some that might even be country specific that I can't really access myself here in the US. And it's not that I'm not really aware of other options existing or trying to exclude them, but I also have a somewhat limited time span that I can make this video in. So I did try to pick and choose those that seemed a bit more promising or were located in bigger traffic areas like the US, UK, and Australia. So if you're a shopper at one of these more niche or country-specific platforms, please drop them in the comments below to try to spread the word, since I can't cover all of them here. I also did not include POD or print-on-demand platforms like Redbubble and Society6, and while those can support makers by selling their designs on products, they don't really fit today's focus with fully handmade goods. So just so you're aware. All right, so first of all, and we've already kind of touched on this one, but this is going to be Shopify or other direct web storefronts. So this is the most obvious alternative to platforms like Etsy, which is a direct website. So Shopify, Squarespace, WordPress, whichever host. There's a whole bunch of them out there. But these basically allow sellers to build a shop and integrate it into their own site with their own domain name. But it's not a platform per se, it's more just a web host. And that's an important distinction because the benefit of platforms is that they help shoppers discover businesses. They're a marketing tool in a sense, whereas website hosts do not. Another really common comment I got on that last Etsy video was just people saying, well, just create your own website. And I hear that, I really do, but please believe me when I say it is not that simple. And most of us Etsy sellers do have our own sites, but that's unfortunately not this instant guarantee of success. You don't just create a website and bam, suddenly everyone discovers it. In fact, it is remarkably hard to succeed as a website of pretty much any kind now in this post-AI hellscape that we're currently living in, and here's why. Now, this is a huge topic in and of itself, but it's a bit tangential, so I'm basically going to keep it brief and just summarize. So in March of 2024, Google issued what is called a core update in the wake of launching their own AI search engine function. And this core update absolutely obliterated traffic to many, many small independent websites. I mean, you probably noticed this yourself. Search engine results page, aka SERPs, went from curated lists of different blogs and news sites to AI crap, Google Shopping, where they make money on sales, Reddit posts, and maybe, if you're lucky, a niche site on the topic. So it is hard for sellers to solely rely on a website because even knowing all the SEO tricks of the trade is no longer helpful. In fact, in the last year, Google has done a full 180 on SEO preference to the point that they now punish websites that they think are writing for SEO. So yes, a business's personal website is obviously the most ideal choice, but just know that it's not as simple and easy for us to solely rely on that. But obviously the pros are complete flexibility, complete control over your branding, your storefront, etc. And of course, no fees other than the credit card fees on the transaction and the actual fee to maintain the website, which you can do either monthly or yearly. I do it yearly, so I only have to worry about it once, and it's really not that much. For instance, Shopify packages start at like $39 a month. My Squarespace site, which is the lowest tier that I can buy, costs me $180 a year, plus the domain, which is another $20. So say $200 a year. So all in all, that's still way less than I am paying in Etsy fees, but I also get way less traffic there, so it does sort of balance out. Okay, now we'll get into some actual platforms. So next up is eBay, which I'm sure you've heard of. We've all heard of eBay. They've been around forever, by which I mean like over 30 years. But I'll keep it brief here. So eBay is a well-known resale site, and by now, though, you can pretty much find anything on there, including the same dropship Temu crap as on Etsy, but hey, at least they're not pretending to be a maker-focused marketplace, right? And along with the huge global product database, you'll find lots of handmade stuff, though you might have to do some serious sifting, and they won't have the same handcrafted vibe as other platforms. Now, from a seller perspective, with millions of users worldwide, you would be tapping into an already existing customer base that already knows how to navigate the platform, which is big because a lot of people don't like Etsy's interface, and I get that. Their search function is really difficult to use. But on the other hand, because it is such a crowded platform, standing out as a handmade seller can be challenging. Fees are going to range depending on the product category that they're listed in, but in my experience, they're typically 12 to 15%. So relatively comparable to Etsy on that front, but there's also no strongly encouraged free shipping policies, and there's no listing fees as long as you're under like 100 listings a month or something, which is way more than I ever need. So there's not really any harm or risk in just putting your products on there to see if they sell, because you're not going to be out any money if they don't. And I will also say, as both a seller and a buyer on eBay, their customer service is way better than Etsy's. It's not perfect by any means, but you can at least get a hold of a real person if things get dicey. Okay, next up is GoImagine. Now, in terms of handmade focused markets, I think GoImagine probably has the best chance at currently becoming a viable Etsy alternative, though if I'm being honest, it still does have a long way to go. But there's promise, because it's experienced more growth in the last couple of years than any other platform on this list, and more growth than Etsy. And people are talking about it because of that. So GoImagine is a US-based online marketplace that focuses exclusively on handmade goods and operates with a unique social impact mission, donating all of its profits to charity. So right there, I think that will help future-proof it from the same shareholder-driven greed that destroyed Etsy. And this community-driven approach may attract socially conscious buyers more as well, and help sellers build more purpose-driven brand presences. It offers really affordable tiered membership plans, which are going to suit different seller needs. So for $2.50 a month, sellers can list up to 20 products. The $5 a month plan allows up to 100 listings, while the $10 a month plan supports up to 1,000 listings. There is a 5% transaction fee on every sale, it looks like, and that does include the cost of shipping. Payments are then processed through Stripe, which incurs standard processing fees of 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. So I'm not on GoImagine yet, So I can't really speak of how all of these fees combine to give an actual representation of what you stand to make as a seller, but it does seem better than Etsy at least. And this is a platform that I am planning to put a storefront on within the next couple of months. So if I have any updates or noteworthy insights that I find in the process of doing so, I'll try to make a video on that in the future, because again, this one is the one that I see as the most promising. Now let's talk about Michael's MakerPlace, the handmade marketplace from the same folks who run the iconic craft store chain. It's fairly new, having launched barely over a year ago in late 2023, and was designed to give creators a designated space to sell handmade items. I think the idea of it works really well. I mean, Michael sells craft items, and so then having a marketplace for crafters to sell their wares that they make from Michael's products, I love the idea of it. Unfortunately, it is only available to sellers in the United States right now, but it does integrate with other social media and e-commerce platforms, so you can promote your shop more easily. Now, the downside is that since it's newer, it does not have the same massive audience as platforms like Etsy or Amazon Handmade or even Michael's as a craft store platform. Now, I've had a storefront on there for over a year now, and I haven't made a single sale. So, worth it? TBD. For me, I joined because of a special introductory offer where they waived the monthly shop subscription fee for a professional account for like 3 years for me. So I'm not losing any money on it right now, so I think it's worth it to be there and experiment with it. But if it stays like this, I'll definitely be downgrading to their free regular membership when that expires, rather than pay the $10 a month for something that's not really earning me anything. Now, I will say that Michael's does have no listing fees, and then either a 2 or 4% transaction fee compared to Etsy's 6.5%. But again, I haven't made any sales, so honestly I can't say if there are any hidden fees like Etsy has, but if you know more about this, please do let me know in the comments below. Reviews from some sellers mention that there's a learning curve in setting up their shop, and I can confirm that. I've had a little bit of troubleshooting in setting up certain types of listings, but the help team is really responsive on email. They get back to you within 24 hours, so that's really helpful. Another one that I got asked about a few times in the comments was Uncommon Goods, which is US only, and I can actually talk pretty knowledgeably about this one because I've been a partner of theirs for over 3 years now. So the most important thing to know about Uncommon Goods is that they are not a maker marketplace like Etsy or these others, where sellers can set up their shop and control everything. Yes, Uncommon Goods is a curated marketplace of artisan goods, but they purchase these products from us sellers at wholesale prices, or 50% of the retail rate that they plan to sell it for. So as sellers, we have zero control in the product listings, sales, etc. You basically just create a business bio, create your listing information, and then you send them some sample products, which they have to approve before you're allowed on the site. And then they photograph everything themselves, they do the listings, they do all of it. So basically, every few months, I get an email saying they've placed an order with me, and I make the items and I wrap them up, and I label each one with a barcode. Honestly, these packing specifics that they have are probably my biggest pet peeve about Uncommon Goods, but I do get why they ask us to do those things. Then I go on to the order portal, I print my shipping labels that they pay for, and then I just send them off by the deadline. So while I'm only making wholesale prices on my products, I don't have to worry about the fulfillment and logistics of anything, which can take a lot off your plate as a small business. So if you're a seller who operates on enough of a margin to offer wholesale pricing, Uncommon Goods is a great option for artisans who want exposure without managing all the back-end work themselves. However, I don't think it's something that you can just sign up for. Like, they found me on Etsy years ago and messaged me and were like, hey, we like your products and they think they would do great on our site. Do you want to partner with us? Here's how to contact us and get things going. So I don't actually know if there's a way for a small business or a seller to initiate that process. But again, if you do, please let me know down in the comments because I'm curious myself. And I would also like to note that you don't get paid immediately. So they have 2 different payout options. One's a net 10 option where they have to pay your balance within 10 days of the order arriving at their warehouse, for which they deduct 2% off the total. Or if you're like me and you don't want to lose the 2% needlessly, you can opt for their net 60 terms, which doesn't have a fee, but then you do have to wait 60 days for payment. So that works for us as an established and relatively stable business, but I can see how waiting 2 whole months for payments for a startup or someone who doesn't have that kind of financial flexibility would be troublesome. Okay, so next there's Ko-fi, which is a platform that originally started as a way for creators to receive tips or buy me a coffee donations, hence the name. But over time, Ko-fi has developed and evolved into a space where makers can sell physical goods and digital downloads, as well as offering commission structures and even offering recurring memberships so they can have more consistent income. So kind of like a Patreon sort of scheme. I've been on Ko-fi for a few years now, not actually for my main business, but just for my embroidery, because I don't really do that to make money, but it's an easy and free place for me to just post my hoops when I find myself needing to clear a little bit of stock, or I can easily manage custom commissions there. So I like it for that reason. Coffee is also global, and it's incredibly flexible, and it charges minimal fees. So on sales and tips, I have only paid the PayPal processing fee that I run the transactions through. If you set up the membership function that I mentioned before, you will get charged 5% on that, but you can also opt in to give 5% of donations and tips to unlock premium creator features, which gives you like a contributor badge. But I don't personally do these things because, again, I don't really use Coffee for my actual business. So if you have an existing following, it has some really cool features like allowing you to link and integrate to your Discord, Twitch, and YouTube. It's a very Gen Z platform, if you can't tell. The downsides is that it has a pretty no-frills interface, so it's not the best or the most intuitive, but it's simple and it's functional. And its search and browse functions are not the best either. Until recently, this explore page function wasn't even here, so it was really just us artists sharing our coffee links on our socials with our friends. But it is improving, though I do still think it's pretty niche and it has kind of a long way to go as far as actually getting you organic traffic. Okay, so let's talk about Folksy, which is the UK's answer to Etsy. So Folksy is a marketplace exclusively for handmade goods, craft supplies, and kits, and it's hyper-focused on supporting local makers. So if you are a UK-based artisan looking for a platform, this could be it for you. Folksy is often praised for its straightforward setup process and its tight-knit supportive community of creators, and the fact that it has an emphasis on sustainability as a platform, which we obviously love here. A big plus is that Folksy offers sellers different subscription options, so you can either pay as you go, which is great if you're just starting out and you kind of want to test the waters, or you can opt for a Folksy Plus account, which gives you unlimited listings for a flat monthly fee. Now, again, it's primarily targeted at buyers within the UK, which can be limiting if you're looking to reach a global customer base, but for the buyer that really wants to shop local in their country, this is excellent. I really recommend any of our UK viewers to check out this site. That way you won't even have to filter by shop country location, and then you won't also have to worry that you're going to get a package marked from China, hopefully. For my Australian viewers out there, Madeit is a local alternative to Etsy that focuses on supporting Aussie creators and has a really strong community vibe about it, which I like. It looks like Madeit offers 3 different prescription plans depending on how many products you want to list a month. So it's going to start at 10 Australian dollars a month, and that's for up to 15 items. Or you can go up to $25 a month for up to 100 items. Now, there is a flat transaction fee of 2% plus 35 cents Australian dollars per sale to cover those payment processing costs. But Madeit does not take any commissions on sale. So the 6.5% that Etsy charges as their commission, Madeit doesn't charge anything like that. So really their fee structure seems to be pretty transparent and competitive from my perspective. Okay, so next up is Big Cartel, which is a global platform that seems to be simple, intuitive, and best of all, does not have any transaction fees other than just the standard payment processing fee that you would pay anywhere. Now, it does have subscription options, but there is a free plan if you're selling 5 or fewer different products. So if you're a maker with just a few core product offerings, this might be a good option for you. Otherwise, their platinum plan starts at, it looks like $15 a month, and the diamond plan goes up to $30 a month. And that one's going to allow you up to 500 different items a month with additional benefits like custom domain connections. So you could connect it to a domain of a website that you already own. The sellers on here, from reviews that I've read, seem to really like its transparent pricing model and that it doesn't have any unpleasant surprises. Cough, cough, Etsy offsite ads. Okay, so Gumroad is another worldwide platform where creators can sell both digital and physical goods. They seem to have a pretty straightforward pricing model that doesn't have any monthly subscription fee options, but they do charge a flat 10% fee on each sale, plus then the credit card transaction fee. And if a customer discovers and purchases a product through Gumroad's Discover feature, an additional fee of 30% is applied to that transaction. So honestly, even though I've never used Gumroad before as either a seller or a buyer, and I can't say from a first-hand perspective, their fees actually kind of seem worse than Etsy. Maybe I'm wrong. Have you used it? Is that really the case? Please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I don't really know if I can recommend this particular platform, at least from the seller perspective. Okay, I haven't forgotten about European viewers out there, and for you, I have Tedooo, which is a European platform for handmade goods that's quickly gaining popularity over there, by my understanding. And as both an app and a website, it combines kind of the social networking features with the marketplace aspect, kind of like Depop sort of does, fostering a community where crafters and buyers can connect, share inspiration, and of course, sell. Now, Tedooo does offer a fee-free environment for listing and selling products, though there's, of course, the payment processing fees charged by the integrated payment providers. And then there is also an optional pro membership that you can sign up for, which would give you extra bonus features, like having your products featured on their Discover page, but it's not necessary to join that to be on the platform. Okay, so another UK-specific platform, we have the British Craft House, which is a curated marketplace, so buyers can trust that they are getting high-quality handmade items, as in they only allow, quote, original handcrafted items. That means no vintage, no reselling, no supplies, though kits and certain upcycling items are allowed, but you do need to get the site's approval before posting them. So they definitely are really trying to keep the emphasis on handmade here. I really like the looks of its simple browse function. Like, I can shop by category or directly by store, which Etsy shoppers know is insanely difficult to do there anymore. Even if you know the name of the shop, it can be hard to find in the search function. But this one also does look like it's a pretty small platform still. So there's 17 pages right now of 24 shops. So we're looking at like 400-ish shops altogether, which isn't terrible, but it would be really great to see this number grow. Sellers here are charged a 7.2% commission, which does include VAT, by the way, and that's going to be on each sale, and then payments are processed through Stripe, which is going to add a fee of 1.4% plus 20 pence per transaction. So in addition to these fees, sellers are going to have to pay for their subscription fee, which is either £18 or £33 monthly, or there's a premium option that you can only buy annually for £995. For me personally, the fees look pretty steep, but at least they're transparent about it. And if you're a British artist really looking to tap into the local market, it could still be a lucrative option. Okay, so this next one is interesting. It's called Storenvy, and it looks like it goes a little bit beyond the scope of just being a handmade marketplace, and actually is turning into a place to buy from indie brands in general. So from what I can tell, the idea is still to support shopping small, but not necessarily handmade. It is global, and like Etsy, creators can make a custom storefront for themselves, but it's way more customizable, as you can actually use HTML and CSS if you want to customize the code of your storefront, which you definitely cannot do on Etsy, at least not that I'm aware of. It's also free up to 20 items a month, and then after that, there are some fairly affordable plans that range from $10 to $50 a month, though it looks like they have an introductory offer on right now that's going to be half price for the first 3 months, so I don't know if this will stick around, but you could try it out for half price, looks like at the moment. And these options do come with personal domains too, so it's kind of like making your own website. Now, there are no listing fees, but sales do incur a 15% commission on the total sale amount, which includes whatever the buyer pays for shipping, and then the payment and processing fees. So all in all, it looks pretty similar to the fees that I end up paying on Etsy once all is said and done. But what's interesting is that sales made through your custom store without involving the marketplace function do not incur this commission, though the payment processing fees obviously still apply. You do have to subscribe to be one of these tiers to get that feature, but if you do subscribe to that and then you only sell through your own generated website as opposed to the marketplace function, it seems like you can basically treat Storenvy like a website host, and then you won't have to pay those transaction fees. Or you can use it like a discoverable marketplace and try to gain organic traffic. So it's kind of cool that it allows you to do both things. And I'm not on here, so I don't know how much flexibility you have in, say, oh, I don't want my products listed on the marketplace, I only want to sell on that. I'm not sure because I don't have a storefront to play around with, but if you do have experience, again, please let me know down below. Now, I suppose since we're talking about popular marketplaces, I should probably mention the TikTok shop. That's like the big hot trending thing right now. So TikTok Shop is an e-commerce platform that's integrated to the TikTok social media platform app, which allows businesses to sell products directly to users. So as of April 1st, 2024, TikTok Shop increased their referral fees to 6% per order, with a further increase to 8%, which was effective in July of this last year. So it stayed right there now, but who knows if it's going to keep going up. And then additionally, there's a 30-cent transaction fee per order that's also been implemented. So for new merchants who achieved active status in the Seller Center from April 1st through October 31st of this last year, TikTok Shop offered a promotional referral rate of just 2% plus the 30 cents for the first 60 days. So I don't know if they do that regularly, but you might be able to sign up and get a better deal for that introductory period. Now, it's obviously important to note that TikTok Shop's availability varies by region. And as we've all heard by now, that may or may not include the US. It was banned 2 nights ago, and then it was back. So who knows if it's going to stick around. If you're a US seller, I would not count on the TikTok shop, honestly, because it just feels like a really unstable platform at the moment until we kind of know what's going to go on with the legislation behind that. So I unfortunately joined the TikTok shop late stage here, not really getting everything set up and operational until December of last year. So my shop never really had the chance to gain traction before I deactivated all my listings because I just wasn't sure what was going to happen with the platform. Take with that what you will, but on the plus side, it wasn't very difficult to set up a shop. There's actually a function where you can link it to your Etsy and just import the CSV file from Etsy. So all of my products just transferred over, and then I just had to go through the listings and kind of tweak them and tailor them specifically to like TikTok's needs and optimize them for the TikTok platform. So it's really not that difficult to set up a shop on there. And I definitely think it's worth it if you're not in the US. And if you're in the US, you might still try it anyway, especially if you don't have a whole lot to set up, and just see what happens. Okay. Next up, and we're nearing the end here, I promise, I just want to touch on Amazon Handmade really quickly because a lot of people asked about this in the comments of my last Etsy video. Personally, and this might just be my own personal ethics, so fine if you don't share the sentiment, but I don't want anything to do with Amazon to the extent that I am able to avoid them. But if you want access to a global household name and exposure to their massive customer base, they do have a dedicated section of Amazon that caters to handmade sellers. And from what I've heard from some sellers that actually sell there, they actually do uphold those requirements, though that might not be the experience shared by everyone. However, I've also heard some real horror stories akin to Etsy about this platform. So based on diving into some seller forums about it, there are some major drawbacks. The interface is awful and complicated. It takes forever to create a listing, and there's really strict photo requirements. Unlike Etsy, you can't just create a storefront for a global audience. Amazon has different marketplaces for different countries. So you have Amazon US, Amazon UK, etc., etc. So you would have to set up separate storefronts on all of them if you want to be global. Not a huge deal if you just want to target one country, but it would be a pain if you do. Another drawback is that the funds from the sales don't become available for about 2 weeks. There's also a lot more returns. A lot of sellers claim that people just treat Amazon Handmade like they would treat regular old Amazon, and they expect free and easy returns because Amazon has allowed this for so long. And as a seller, you have no discretion about whether to accept the return. They also have a lot more metrics than Etsy, and if you drop below that threshold, they'll shut down your shop. I mean, I guess Etsy will too for no reason, but still, seems a lot more likely to happen on Amazon Handmade. And of course, those metrics and those rules are largely enforced by bots, which we know are oh so accurate and reliable, right? The other big downside, and things that we've discussed a lot here today, are obviously the fees. Most sellers there say that Amazon and Etsy are comparable fee-wise, in that both will kill you slowly. And indeed, Amazon fees are about 15% on average, so similar to Etsy and even higher in some cases, I think. But the sheer volume might be worth it for you. I've also heard from sellers that it can really diversify your product popularity, as in some products that are popular on Etsy aren't going to be popular there, but different products will be popular there. For me, personally, I think this sounds like a hell even worse than Etsy, so I personally have no immediate plans to sacrifice my personal sanity to get some more sales here, but again, that's just me. If you're okay with some of those trade-offs, Amazon Handmade can be a powerful tool for growing your business. Just don't expect to rid yourself of the big platform headaches that most of us are starting to hate about Etsy. And finally, remember that you don't have to seek out arts and crafts solely online. Even if they're small or seasonal, local craft fairs and markets can be a great way to meet and support artists in your area. And that way you get to support small and local all at once. Plus, you won't have to pay shipping fees, the seller doesn't have to pay shipping fees, and you'll actually be able to see and hold what it is that you're getting. Now, I know firsthand that this option does not work for everyone, especially for folks in small towns like me, where sometimes even covering the booth fee from a market is often a challenge. But if you live in a large city or have access to a place that has a lot of makers marketplaces, you should definitely check them out because it can be a really great way to grow your business on a more personal level that's face-to-face with buyers. All right. There you have it. I know it was a lot, but that is your ultimate guide to Etsy alternatives for handmade goods. I really hope it was helpful. Please let me know in the comments down below which platform you're most excited about, or if I missed your favorite again, please drop it in the comments below because I'm excited to dive deeper into both these ones that I've mentioned and ones that I'm not aware of. So if I find a real winner in those explorations moving forward here, I will try to keep you guys posted. But just keep in mind that making any of these a truly viable alternative to Etsy is a two-part effort. Sellers to make themselves available on these platforms and buyers to actually make it worth it for us to do that. So because I'm on a total of 5 different platforms right now, and still 95% of my direct-to-consumer sales, which means no wholesale partnerships, are through Etsy. And it's not because we are not there on other places. It's not because we're not marketing other places. It's just because buyers don't really have a reason to seek beyond the familiar household name of Etsy at this point. So if you're a seller, put yourself out there on these platforms because people will never discover them if you're not there. Especially the ones that let you join and list for free, because you don't really stand to lose anything by doing that except for maybe a little bit of time that it takes to create listings. And if you're a buyer, head to one of these before Etsy next time you need something handmade, because in the end, we will never be able to see the mass exodus from Etsy we'd all like until there's a truly lucrative and viable alternative. Remember that us small businesses are still businesses, and we do need to make a living. It's easy for shoppers to say, just leave Etsy, when your livelihood isn't tied to it. And remember, supporting small makers isn't just about where you shop, it's ultimately about valuing creativity and craftsmanship and the people behind it. Something Etsy has shown that they no longer do, which is why this video is even necessary in the first place. So if you found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who is looking for ways to support small creators, or maybe someone who's looking to start their own small creator business. And thank you so much for watching. Once again, this is Amber from Sustainable Jungle, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.